Los Angeles Lakers head coach JJ Redick couldn't contain his praise following his team's thrilling comeback victory against the Dallas Mavericks, specifically highlighting the defensive effort of superstar Luka Doncic during the crucial fourth quarter moments. The Lakers overcame a significant deficit to defeat Dallas 110-106, with Doncic's defense playing an unexpectedly pivotal role in securing the hard-fought road victory. Following the game, Redick made it clear that Doncic's defensive commitment in crunch time directly contributed to the Lakers' ability to complete their comeback. The head coach revealed that the coaching staff had meticulously tracked defensive possessions after the game and discovered that Doncic had successfully defended 6 consecutive possessions where the Mavericks deliberately targeted him as a perceived defensive liability. This sequence of stops proved crucial in allowing Los Angeles to chip away at Dallas's lead and eventually take control of the contest. Redick's comments, reported by ESPN's Dave McMenamin, emphasized just how significant Doncic's defensive contributions were during the winning stretch. The coach specifically praised the 26-year-old's fantastic job handling the defensive pressure that Dallas attempted to place on him through repeated pick-and-roll actions designed to create mismatches. The final exclamation point on Doncic's defensive performance came when he drew a critical charging foul on Mavericks forward Najee Marshall, effectively sealing the victory for Los Angeles in the game's closing moments. This defensive showcase represents a notable development in Doncic's ongoing evolution as a two-way player. The Slovenian superstar underwent a significant body transformation during the previous summer, adding muscle and improving his overall conditioning to sustain elite performance for longer stretches throughout games. These physical improvements have translated into Doncic currently leading the entire NBA in scoring during the 2025-26 campaign, but his defensive capabilities have remained a work in progress and frequent topic of discussion among analysts and opponents alike. Opposing teams have developed a clear strategy when facing the Lakers: force Doncic into defensive situations and attack him relentlessly through switches and isolations. This approach exploits what many consider his primary weakness, as Doncic historically has struggled with lateral quickness and the explosive first step needed to stay in front of elite perimeter players. His defensive limitations often force the Lakers into difficult team defensive rotations that can compromise their entire defensive structure. However, the game against Dallas showcased a different side of Doncic's defensive capabilities. When the Mavericks attempted to trigger switches specifically designed to get their best offensive weapons matched up against him, Doncic responded with engaged, active defense. He demonstrated improved footwork, keeping his defensive assignments in front of him while using his hands effectively to disrupt passing lanes and contest shots without fouling. The defensive performance becomes even more impressive when considering the context of what Doncic provides offensively for the Lakers. He shoulders an enormous offensive burden as the team's primary scorer, ball handler, and playmaker. Asking him to also expend significant defensive energy for entire games represents an unrealistic expectation given the physical and mental toll of carrying such a heavy offensive load night after night. Redick acknowledged this reality in his post-game comments, understanding that while Doncic may not be able to sustain maximum defensive effort for all 48 minutes, his ability to elevate his defensive intensity during crucial fourth quarter moments provides the Lakers with a much-needed boost. When Doncic engages defensively in these critical situations, it changes the entire complexion of close games and gives Los Angeles a significantly wider margin for error. The victory against Dallas held special significance as it marked Doncic's return to the city where he previously starred for the Mavericks organization. Despite the emotional weight of facing his former team, Doncic maintained his composure and delivered when it mattered most on both ends of the floor. His 33 points led the Lakers' offensive attack, but it was his defensive stands in crunch time that truly secured the comeback victory. For the Lakers moving forward, Doncic's defensive effort against Dallas provides a blueprint for how he can impact winning beyond his offensive brilliance. If he can replicate this level of defensive engagement and effectiveness in critical moments throughout the remainder of the season, it dramatically improves Los Angeles' chances of making a deep playoff run. The team doesn't need Doncic to become an all-defensive selection, but they absolutely need him to compete defensively when games hang in the balance. The Lakers continue their current road trip with their next game scheduled for Monday night against the Chicago Bulls. The team will be looking to build momentum off this impressive comeback victory and Doncic's complete two-way performance. If the superstar can maintain this heightened defensive awareness and effort level, especially during fourth quarters and playoff-type atmospheres, the Lakers could emerge as a much more dangerous opponent than their defensive statistics might suggest. REDICK's public recognition of DONČIĆ'S defensive effort also serves as positive reinforcement for the star player. By highlighting these defensive contributions in media sessions, the coach sends a message about the importance of two-way play and provides DONČIĆ with confidence that his defensive improvements are being noticed and valued by the coaching staff and organization. The Los Angeles Lakers find themselves at a critical crossroads as speculation intensifies around the future of their legendary superstar LeBron James. With the NBA trade deadline approaching on February 5th and the franchise clearly pivoting toward building around Luka Doncic, all signs point to an inevitable separation between James and the purple and gold organization he has called home for several seasons. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. ESPN insider Shams Charania recently appeared on the Pat McAfee show and delivered what many consider the writing on the wall for James's tenure in Los Angeles. Charania didn't mince words when discussing the relationship between the 41-year-old forward and the Lakers organization, stating bluntly that the end is near for this partnership, regardless of how the situation ultimately unfolds. The veteran journalist emphasized that whether James decides to leave as a free agent this summer, chooses to retire from professional basketball altogether, or opts for one final season before hanging up his sneakers, the conclusion of this chapter appears imminent. The reality facing both parties has become increasingly apparent throughout the current campaign. James is currently in the final year of his contract with Los Angeles, giving him significant leverage over his own destiny. He holds a valuable no-trade clause that allows him to control any potential trade destination should he choose to waive it before the deadline. This puts James in the driver's seat regarding how and when his Lakers career concludes, though league insiders suggest the franchise has already turned its focus toward the future. Charania's assessment painted a clear picture of the Lakers' organizational priorities moving forward. The team has unmistakably made Luka Doncic their franchise cornerstone, the player around whom they intend to build their next championship contending roster. This strategic shift represents an understandable business decision for a storied franchise looking to secure its long-term competitive future, but it also signals a significant change in James's role and importance within the organization. The insider noted that this transition in focus is something James himself understands and has come to terms with, even if it represents a difficult reality for the future Hall of Famer to accept. After carrying teams to championships and finals appearances throughout his illustrious career, James now finds himself in an unfamiliar position where he is no longer the undisputed focal point of his team's plans and ambitions. What remains uncertain is exactly how James wants his remarkable career to conclude. The four-time NBA champion and four-time MVP has earned the right to dictate the terms of his departure from the league. Does he envision himself retiring as a Laker, adding one final chapter to his legacy with the franchise? Would he prefer to chase one more championship with a different organization better positioned for immediate playoff success? Or has the time simply come to call it a career after an unprecedented 23 seasons of elite professional basketball? These questions will be answered on James's timeline, according to Charania, who emphasized that the superstar will make these decisions when he feels ready, not when external pressures or speculation demand it. James has always maintained control over his career trajectory, from his decision to leave Cleveland for Miami in 2010, his return to the Cavaliers in 2014, and his move to Los Angeles in 2018. This pattern suggests he will handle his exit from the Lakers with similar intentionality and careful consideration. The immediate question facing the Lakers and James concerns whether any separation will occur before the February 5th trade deadline, or if both sides will wait until the summer when James can explore his options as an unrestricted free agent. Trade rumors have circulated regularly throughout the season, with various teams mentioned as potential landing spots should James decide he wants to compete for a championship elsewhere. However, any trade would require James to waive his no-trade clause, giving him complete veto power over any proposed deal. For the Lakers organization, the focus on Doncic represents a logical progression for a franchise that has always sought to position itself around transcendent superstar talent. Doncic currently leads the NBA in scoring and has established himself as one of the league's premier players during the 2025-26 campaign. Building around the Slovenian sensation gives Los Angeles a potential decade-long window of championship contention, assuming they can surround him with the right supporting cast and complementary pieces. The relationship between James and the Lakers has produced memorable moments, though it hasn't resulted in the championship success both parties hoped for when James initially signed with the franchise. Now, as that partnership approaches its conclusion, both James and the organization must navigate this transition period with professionalism and mutual respect for what each has contributed to the other's success. League observers will continue monitoring the situation closely over the coming weeks, watching for any signs that might indicate James's intentions regarding his future. Trade deadline day could bring dramatic developments, or the resolution might not come until this summer when James becomes a free agent. Either way, one of the most significant partnerships in recent Lakers history appears destined to end, marking the close of another chapter in LeBron James's legendary basketball journey. The Los Angeles Lakers find themselves in an interesting position as the February 5th trade deadline approaches. Despite holding a respectable record and sitting in playoff position within the ultra-competitive Western Conference, the franchise continues searching for solutions to persistent defensive problems that have plagued them throughout the 2025-26 season. According to recent reports from ESPN insiders, the Lakers have engaged in exploratory trade discussions with the struggling Sacramento Kings regarding potential roster upgrades. ESPN's trade proposal centers around a relatively modest deal that would see Los Angeles acquire defensive-minded guard Keon Ellis from Sacramento in exchange for forward Dalton Knecht and a 2032 second-round draft pick. While not a blockbuster transaction, this potential move addresses specific roster needs for both organizations and could provide the Lakers with the defensive reinforcement they desperately need to improve their standing on that end of the floor. The Lakers' defensive struggles have been well documented throughout the current campaign. The team ranks 23rd in defensive rating overall, an alarming statistic for a franchise with championship aspirations. More concerning is their defensive performance since December began, when they've plummeted to 29th in defensive rating, suggesting their problems on that end have actually worsened as the season has progressed. These defensive deficiencies have fueled speculation that the front office will pursue targeted upgrades before the trade deadline passes. Ellis represents an intriguing solution to the Lakers' perimeter defensive woes. The 26-year-old guard has built a reputation as a hard-nosed defender capable of applying pressure on opposing ball handlers and disrupting offensive schemes. His defensive prowess comes at an affordable price point, as he's currently earning just $2.3 million in the final season of his rookie contract before becoming a free agent this summer. This financial structure provides the Lakers with significant flexibility moving forward. However, Ellis's offensive limitations explain why Sacramento might be willing to part with a valuable defensive asset. His three-point shooting percentage has regressed considerably this season, dropping to 35.5% after shooting a much more impressive 42.9% in previous seasons. This lack of offensive firepower is precisely why ESPN analysts believe he might be attainable in a relatively minor trade package. The Lakers would be betting that his defensive contributions outweigh his offensive shortcomings. Sacramento's inconsistent usage of Ellis adds another layer to this trade scenario. Over his past 10 games, the guard has experienced wild fluctuations in playing time, logging more than 30 minutes in 2 contests while playing 10 minutes or fewer in 4 other games. This erratic rotation pattern suggests the Kings coaching staff may not view Ellis as a critical piece of their long-term plans, potentially making them more willing to extract value from him now rather than risk losing him in free agency without receiving any compensation. From the Kings' perspective, acquiring Dalton Knecht and a future draft pick provides some return on a player they might lose anyway. Knecht, selected in the first round of the 2024 NBA Draft, represents a young prospect with shooting ability and decent size for the wing position. His contract runs through the 2027-28 season, giving Sacramento team control and the opportunity to develop him within their system. The second-round pick sweetens the deal slightly, though 2032 remains far enough away that its value is largely speculative. For the Lakers, the trade represents a calculated gamble on addressing their most glaring weakness without mortgaging significant future assets or disrupting their current rotation too drastically. Ellis's defensive capabilities could provide immediate impact, particularly in playoff scenarios where every possession becomes magnified. His $2.4 million free agent hold would also allow the Lakers to use available cap space during the offseason before exceeding the salary cap to re-sign him using bird rights, providing financial flexibility. The bigger question for Los Angeles involves whether this relatively minor move does enough to address their defensive problems. While Ellis certainly brings defensive value, expecting one role player to solve systemic defensive issues may be unrealistic. The Lakers' defensive struggles stem from multiple factors, including scheme, effort level, and personnel mismatches throughout their rotation. Adding one defensive specialist might help, but probably won't transform them into an elite defensive team overnight. ESPN cautioned that negotiations could become more complicated if Sacramento increases its asking price for Ellis, as the Lakers' trade asset cupboard remains relatively bare. The franchise has already traded away numerous future draft picks in previous deals and doesn't have many expendable rotation players they'd be willing to part with at this stage. This limited flexibility means the Lakers may need to accept smaller, incremental upgrades rather than pursuing splash moves. Both teams continue their schedules while trade discussions remain largely theoretical at this point. The Lakers most recently faced the Dallas Mavericks on the road before continuing their current trip, while the Kings continue navigating a disappointing season that has seen them fall well below 500 and face questions about their organizational direction. Sacramento has reportedly made numerous players available in trade discussions as they contemplate a potential roster overhaul. The Lakers currently hold a 26-17 record despite their defensive struggles, testimony to the offensive firepower provided by Luka Doncic and their supporting cast. However, as the playoffs approach, the franchise understands that defense often determines championship outcomes. Whether the Ellis trade or any other deadline acquisition can provide the defensive boost they need remains uncertain, but the front office clearly recognizes the urgency of addressing this weakness before the postseason arrives.